Remember that video I did last week or the week before or whatever it was? I keep losing track of time. That's besides the point. Where I built a family friend and my daughter's friend, her first computer, and I was like, you know, my daughter's gonna be like, I need a new computer now. It didn't take long. She's already complaining that this one's crashing, and she's been spending an awful lot of time at her friend's house. So let's tear into this and see if it's really crashing or not, because I figure it always makes good content to be able to troubleshoot stuff when the opportunity arises, or whether or not she's full of stuff and just wants a new computer. Let's face it, she's Jace 2 Cents' daughter. She's gonna get a new computer, but she didn't have to. She didn't have to come up with an excuse. Today we're gonna find out whether or not this MSI laptop's getting ready to catch fire. But you know what you don't want to catch fire? Your warship. Today's video is brought to you by World of Warships. Bet you never saw that coming. With World of Warships, you can command a massive naval fleet featuring some of history's most iconic war vessels. Recently, World of Warships went through a complete graphical overhaul, making it look even more realistic than it did before. And with hyper-accurate, realistic-looking models based off the actual blueprints and 3D scans of the real ships, they're as lifelike as they could possibly be. So accurate, in fact, I still use them as a reference guide for my model building. Now, new players that sign up using my link in the description below are gonna get a pretty awesome starter pack. You'll get 700 doubloons, 1 million credits, 7 days of premium time, the Japanese ship Ishizuchi, and the USS Charleston. But even with all that, it's not gonna be good enough for you to take me on in the high seas. I play ranked. You know, an 11-year-old is never going to appreciate what they have, no matter how much you try. She's a good kid, don't get me wrong. She's a good kid, she gets excellent grades. She's a little mouthy, but she's also my kid. And no matter how much I preach to her, keep your stuff clean, this is what I get. Look at this. This is nasty. So many scratches. And she went down to the metal with that one.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah,
oh my
that
God.
nick right there, whatever. She really wanted a laptop, and I told her that she's not gonna be happy coming from a desktop that had a 1080 Ti and it had a 2700X water cooling, 27-inch monitor.
Dude, take care of your stuff.
This is why every laptop review I ever do includes the hinge test, because this one, as you can see, fails. My first thought was maybe she had been overheating this thing, because I can't even tell you how many times I opened the door. I'm like, go to bed. It's 12 in the morning, go to bed. And she's sitting there with her laptop on her bed, no laptop stand or anything underneath it. And these fans are just going crazy because she's sitting on there completely choking off the intakes. And even a system that's at idle with those fans unable to bring air in, it's gonna keep ramping up to try and keep itself from killing itself. I don't know if something maybe happened temperature-wise with this, where maybe it needs to be repasted or something because it kept getting too hot too much. I want to avoid that step if I can though, because MSI in their great wisdom has always made their laptops completely non-user friendly. Let's see what the keyboard looks like. I haven't looked in there yet. Oh, nasty. That's all wrist. Look at the screen. That's disgusting. Achoo! Achoo! That's why you wear a mask. Now this step I'm doing here, this is not gonna obviously do anything for the functionality of the computer. This is just for my own sanity. You know, everyone's got their OCD. Mine is clean keyboards and towers and stuff. So if it's that dirty on the outside, how dirty is the software in the inside? My child has I click on everything syndrome. So the second we boot into it, the first thing we see is unhandled exception has occurred in your application. Which application? It doesn't even say. I'm gonna just start by going into add remove programs. Roblox player for Jason laptop. I don't play Roblox, okay? I swear. Okay, so, hey, this is not looking too bloatware-y. The reason why I'm starting with software is I can't tell you how many times bloatware and browser extensions and malware and stuff on her system was causing problems. So I asked her when this one failed or kept crashing on her, I was like, you get a blue screen with a little sad face? She's like, no, I get another like message that pops up. It's like a game handler, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know what that means, and I think her problem might be specific to Fortnite. Yes, it's Fortnite. Every time she picks up a gun, she says that Fortnite crashes and kicks her out. But I'm checking software first. We're gonna check drivers, we're gonna check Windows Update. We're gonna start simple. We're gonna start with the stuff that anyone can do. Then we'll move into a little more complicated debugging and or physical intervention on things that might be happening here. Because one of the things I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna install Heaven Benchmark in here, and I'm gonna let it loop and run and get hot. and I need to see if it crashes in any other game. So I'm just gonna use MSI's Dragon Center to keep an eye on the temps and stuff. One thing I did notice, and it's probably fine, but the temps would go as high as 73C when installing Heaven. Now sure, that's, you know, that is a workload. We just wanna keep an eye on our temperatures here. And I'm still leaning towards whatever she's dealing with is probably related to some corrupt file in the game itself. And don't tell her, but she's getting a new computer anyway. She's gonna help me build it. But I keep telling her, like, just because your friends have something nice doesn't mean you have to have something nice. But that's the advice I give, it's not the advice I take. One thing I'm not liking here is the CPU is sitting at 78 to 81, and it will spike sometimes 85. What I don't like is Heaven is not CPU intensive at all. Now yes, they are sharing a heat pipe, so heat from the GPU is going to affect the CPU. What I don't like, though, is how much CPU temp we're seeing while it's sitting here in a synthetic. So what we need to do next is we need to load up something that's gonna actually use CPU. So I wanna do Cinebench first, just because I wanna see what the spiky temp is gonna be. I get asked this every single time I talk about looping Cinebench. I'm gonna show it again. If you wanna make it loop, you go over here to Preferences. You then go in here and take the minimum test duration from 0 and make it whatever, however many seconds. Can't, 88, 89, see, it is going under there. 90. Now remember, this is without any GPU heat influencing it. So I feel like if we were running a game that's intensive enough, we could hit, my theory here is that we might be hitting sudden spikes of temp that's causing the CPU to throttle so hard that it actually causes the crash. That's my theory anyway. So that's at 93 and there's barely any headroom in temperatures right there. But this is also a very intensive workload. So that's kind of the worst case scenario. Now, if you run a GPU on top of that, adding 80C of heat to that pipe, then that's very likely could be the issue there. So I decided I was gonna try Fortnite now. I told it to go, and then it just disappeared. Whoa, my God, ETA is a 41-minute wait for Sniper Shootout. Apparently people don't like that. Okay.
Funny how we went from Unreal to this.
So the temps right now, GPU at 47, CPU at 64. What if I put it back to auto fans? See what happens there. My daughter has an umbrella.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Is he cool? Yeah, he's cool. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. 78 on the CPU, 56 on the GPU. I have a feeling she's trying to swindle me. I have a feeling she's trying to con me, because temps look good.
Frame rates look good.
There's someone shooting over here. Shoot! It's not shooting!
How did they miss you?
I'm trying to trackpad with this stuff. And
that guy sucks.
What?
Oh, are you building?
I don't know.
Did you just aim and then not shoot?
I'm just making this guy waste his ammo. Oh, finally. I think she's trying to hustle me. GPU's at 56C, CPU's at 72. I clearly picked up a gun. Should we move on to some hypotheticals now? Because, and maybe to continue this video to have some substance other than Jay's kids trying to con him into a new computer? As if I wouldn't be able to find out the truth?
I know, as if like it wasn't going to be broadcast to the world.
I would do the same thing if I were in her shoes. Do you know how many emails I get from like teenagers, tweenagers, even like 13-year-olds that are like, help me convince my parents I need a computer.
Oh, that's funny.
It's like, what am I supposed to say to your parents? Hey parents, your kid needs a computer. Yeah, hey, I'm this guy on the internet, makes computer stuff, and your kid needs a computer.
Yeah, would you trust that?
Does your kid want to be in a video? Now the nice thing about iFixit is they don't just have your toolkits like you got here, they also have your disassembly tools. This is the ProTech kit, which comes with the same toolkit you just saw, but also all these disassembly tools, plastic spudgers, you got your rubber tips, holder, dill bobbers. Look, they even give you guitar picks. No, I'm just kidding, they're not guitar picks. iFixit, link in the description below. This could also be the car mechanic syndrome. Problem only happens when the mechanic's not around.
Yeah.
So the other thing we're gonna have to do too is we need to check drivers, make sure that they're all up to date, specifically video card drivers. All right, so as I've already said, MSI laptops are not very user serviceable. Oh, it just broke. The screw's still in there.
Oh my God, are you serious?
I thought I took it out. I even checked it twice. But one of the things I kind of wanted to check for was we do have a Husky. I mean, a little bit came out, but not enough to make a difference. All right, so here's a heat pipe solution. Doesn't look bad. It's really hard. So I'm just gonna repaste this right now. I don't think this had anything to do with our problem, but I figured while I'm in here, it doesn't hurt. Well, it can hurt, like you saw, I cracked the case, you know. One of the reasons why I don't want this laptop busted, honestly, is she's still gonna have it. It's still gonna be hers to take places and be able to do schoolwork and stuff on because she is purely distance learning right now. And she uses this laptop a lot for school. So, and even in the summer, she has stuff she's doing. So I do want this laptop to remain usable. I'm not worried about these torn thermal pads. They should line right back up, but to be honest, thermal pad conductivity, it's lackluster at best. I could repad it, but I'm not gonna bother. I don't personally feel it's gonna be any sort of an issue. So now that I've got my little P on the CPU and my big P on the GPU, that sounds wrong in many ways. Let's go ahead and get this guy lined back up. Look at that flex. I just want to make sure it's all smooshed down. Let's get this all lined back up, screwed back up, and we'll test the temps and stuff again, see if they improved at all. They probably didn't. I figured I needed to do something in this video to make it more than my kids trying to hustle me. I already told her we were gonna build her one. She knows I'm busy, and she knows that sometimes, okay, we'll do it soon is months away. Yeah. I'm not gonna give Dad the opportunity to say soon. We're gonna do it now because it's gonna break. So the reason why I haven't just brought home one of these towers that are built and could be playing on tonight is because I want her to build it herself. And I want her to build her first custom loop by herself. Well, not by herself, I'm gonna help her obviously, but I want her to be the one to build it. Can't be Jay's 2 cents kid with an AIO in your system. What the hell garbage is that? There's nothing wrong with AIOs. There's really not, but I just am like, okay, she's built 3 computers on this channel. Having her build another basic computer is just pointless at that point. Like why waste everyone's time watching that when you could just go watch the other ones that were more impressive because she was younger. So that's why I think having her do a custom loop soft tubing, probably not hard tubing. All right, so already right now, with the system at 0 RPM, because the fan's set to auto, our idle is at 33. To put that in perspective, when I first fired this up, before we started this video, it was at 49 on the CPU. So, yeah, I mean, it's climbing slightly, 33. I went to 35 and back down to 33 because something started to load up. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do Cinebench again. And then I'm gonna get something to sit down on because I'm fat. See, look. Remember how I told you when I would load a program, it was spiking like 70s? Right there, it hit like 48 when it was loading the program.
Maybe the paste was kind of...
I mean, I think that, well, it felt hard.
Which is...
That's what she said! But it felt really just crusty.
That's what she said!
And didn't have that nice liquid feel. And that's the thing. If the paste gets too hot, just too hot, too many times, then it can go bad. Just like the paste that's designed for liquid nitrogen. If it gets too cold, it can go bad as well. So if Phil's able to do some sort of maybe a little overlay here side by side, so you can see what the temp now is versus before, you're gonna see 71 versus 93. And we only completed that one test when we hit that 93. Look at this, we're halfway through this test and at 72. And our fans, 1,000 RPMs less than they were. At the end of the day, opening up your laptop though could very well void the warranty. All of the right to repair stuff aside, I have to tell you, if you open up your laptop, this one has a sticker on the bottom, it's like warranty void if broken. And there's so much legal argument about whether or not that's allowed. It could void your warranty. You could break your stuff. You saw I cracked the bottom of this because I missed the screw and started yanking on stuff. You could very well damage something when you're taking your heat pipe and stuff apart. So I only recommend people who are comfortable and know enough about how this stuff is assembled to go in here and start messing with your thermal pastes and whatnot. However, if you have a laptop that's dealing with random crashing and slowdowns and all that sort of stuff, and we haven't even touched drivers on here yet, which I'm gonna do, I highly recommend considering looking at the thermal paste. Just like repasting a graphics card, because they buy that thermal paste in massive bulk quantity, so they don't necessarily go with the highest quality stuff. They go with what's gonna cost them the least amount of pennies over the number of units they have to build. Sometimes going with a better thermal paste would definitely make a huge difference in temperatures. As you can see, right now it is at 62C on the graphics card, 67C on the CPU. We are 18C colder on the graphics and 10C colder on the CPU. And then we decided to investigate further. So while we were kind of messing around with this and we did a restart, we got that unhandled exception error that popped up again. So Phil decided to go into the event log or the event viewer and take a look at all the logs, which was also a cool thing because we were also able to see all the crashes that ever happened and determine whether or not she was telling the truth. Well, we actually found a few crashes in the history. Not nearly as often as she was saying, but we found 2 that happened last night within 10 minutes of each other that matched the issue that we had today with that unhandled exception. And then they were happening periodically over the last, there was lots of events that happened in the logger, but, and also too, when you shut down the computer, various apps that are running in the background, they'll show event critical logs as they're being shut down. So you have to kind of filter through that to determine what is a real crash and what is just the system turning something off. But what we did find was something called MSI Eco that was causing some of our crashes, and we also saw that the Wi-Fi was crashing on this laptop. So we got to thinking, that unhandled exception error was popping up every time there was some sort of a crash happening with that MSI Eco, which also controls the wireless, because this has the Killer suite and it has the Intel wireless, which is funny, it's got Intel wireless and Killer wireless, but they kind of run through the same adapter. Anyway, once I went in there and did an update to the Wi-Fi, Intel Wi-Fi wireless adapter, that error no longer happened. So our theory here is that she would play the game, lose internet connection long enough to where it would kick her out of her game. And as she gets kicked out, she sees that unhandled exception error on the screen. Now, she couldn't tell me exactly what the error was, and every single time it would happen at home, she would restart the computer on her own, and then she couldn't tell me what it was. But I remember her specifically saying something about something handled. I remember her telling me that. So if she's playing and poof, it's gone, and then there's that error message, we could see how she would think that those were related. So updating the drivers fixed that. The video driver was also on version 3.99. So that's really old. 3.99. So I updated that. And so far I have not had that error message pop back up. So I just thought we would kind of end this video with a little more investigation, because I'm sure somebody at some point in this video was like, Jay, if you want to know what the errors were, just look at the event logger. Just look at the event viewer to see exactly what the errors were. And Phil did that. He's geeky when it comes to software, and I'm geeky when it comes to hardware. Together, we're one nerd. So we think that that's what happened. I've updated the drivers. You saw we clearly had temperature improvements by updating the paste. Updating the paste.
Yes.
We downloaded new paste, and everything's been great ever since. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.